Doug Weil with Police Magazine. I'm here with my very good friend Roy Bethke, the executive director of Below 100. One of the conversations that began several years ago at ILEA was this concept of depolicing, that officers are withdrawing from proactive policing. They've stopped doing Terry stops, they've stopped doing vehicle stops, they've stopped all the various things that have led over the course of history to lowering crime rates and addressing criminal activity in neighborhoods and cities and what have you. And we've seen, because officers are so concerned about possibly getting sued, possibly getting taken to civil court, to criminal court, to possibly getting killed or injured just for doing their jobs lawfully and within policy, that we've seen now an increase in crime in some cities, St. Louis, for example, Baltimore, for example, where law enforcement is pulled back, the offenders, for lack of a better word, feel emboldened because there's no longer an opposition, right? So what are your thoughts on what we can do to address this question of depolicing in America?
Yeah, it's always interesting to talk about all these hard topics, right? I mean, this is another one of those hard topics. And again, the caution I think that I would have for everyone is that we're talking about 18,000 police departments in the United States, a million, give or take, law enforcement professionals, right? And the problems that we're talking about on the depolicing side, and they are problems, they're limited normally to urban areas and large population centers or groups of regional areas, and it's frightening. I'm from outside Chicago. I see what's going on in Chicago all the time. Certainly St. Louis, where we're at, the things that happened after Ferguson. There's a lot of reasons for cops to step back and say, I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to risk what I used to risk or anything more than that. And that's troubling in a lot of ways. The other part of the equation, I think, is when we select police officers, when we go through the application process and we're bringing people and onboarding them, right, there's a conversation about lowering standards for police officers. And some places in the country have actually done that. I would argue that's a terrible idea. If anything, we should be raising the standards. That's probably a different segment, but yeah. I think it's worth talking about, right? So do we have the right people doing the right job, and are they supported in the right way? Because that's a trust conversation, and from the leadership development side, the space that I do a lot of work in, and if we're not caring for our officers, if they don't know that they're cared for and that they have the trust of their organizations, the command staff, their community members, they're not going to go out and try and make the difference that we need them to make. So how do we fix all those problems? It is politically expedient to just get rid of a cop that makes a tough choice, right, wrong, indifferent, and there's always going to be the gray area somewhere in between there. And those are challenges for us, especially in big cities and population centers where there's things going on that they're staggering.
I don't want to paint law enforcement leadership with a broad brush, but so with that caveat aside, there are many chiefs, or I'll put it this way, leaders, people in leadership positions, power positions, who are working at the mercy of the elected officials, whether that's the city council or the mayor or whatever. Political people have one particular mission in life. They want to remain elected. And so if the community continues to press for, we have anti-police sentiment, we have anti-police demonstrations, we have an anti-police kind of conversation that's happening, the overwhelming majority of Americans support and respect their police, but it's that minor, it's that small segment of society that's hijacked the narrative. And so law enforcement leaders are under tremendous pressure to kind of serve that small group that's making all of this noise. So I understand where police leaders are under tremendous pressure because they want to continue to work as police leaders. They don't want to suddenly be, work in security at Walmart. So, we have to address the fact that the overwhelming majority of civilians, like myself, have tremendous admiration and respect for police. And that needs to be reinforced, and that law enforcement leaders can say, you know what, I did have an officer, got into a thing, but I'm going to support that person up until the time it's found to be an unjustified use of force or what have you, right?
Yeah, I think if you look at the most recent Gallup poll, which I think was released in December of 2018, you're talking about 86% of the American public significantly trust law enforcement. I mean, think about that, right? That's a staggering number. So why aren't we capitalizing on that if that's the case? And To your point, I think the challenge from a leadership perspective, especially in these highly political environments, is are we doing the right thing? Are they doing the right thing? And my take on this, we've talked about this before, the right thing is always the right thing. And I know for me and many of the people that I've worked with and that I do leadership development with, we would always do the right thing. And sometimes that's going to cost you dearly, right? Standing up and having the courage to stake your ground and to make a difference isn't the easy thing. Mm-hmm. And if it's not the easy thing, it should be the good thing. We should be doing it anyway. Sadly, that's not the case in every agency in the country, right? How do we get that? I don't know. It's a tough conversation.
Yeah, those are the conversations that we have here at ILEETA. It's inspiring to be around so many wonderful and intelligent law enforcement trainers, yourself included. I really appreciate everything that you do for our police officers across the country with the Below 100 program and other things that you do. So I just want to tell you I appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate you.
Doug Weinland with Police Magazine.